Well, I had been experimenting with many different chemicals since I came across the wonderful world of psychedelics, ketamine, LSD, salvia, DXM etc., with varying degrees of success. My recent exploration has been done with those strange fellas Hawaiian baby Woodrose seeds. Here is my wisdom on my subject. The first time I tried HBWR was with 5 seeds, everyone was out and I knew I wouldn't be disturbed for at least 3 hours, which would leave enough time for the stuff people usually do on psychedelics: dancing, listening to music, laughing at walls, meditating. I'm sure most of you fellow psychonauts out there know what I am talking about, so I won't go on. 5 seeds had been crushed several hours before into a fine powder. The powder was placed in a glass of warm water, stirred and left to sit in the sun for about 3 hours. The water had turned a kind of shitty pale white kind of color with bits of crap floating about in it by the time got back to it. I drank the mixture expecting it to taste foul, but it didn't taste as bad as I thought it would. After about 30 minutes a slight nausea was felt. Nothing strong. I should mention at this point that I hadn't eaten a huge amount all day, so that may have reduced the nausea somewhat. An hour and a half since I drank the mixture whilst taking a crap, I started to feel the usual, shit I'm coming up kind of feeling. I reached for the mirror and, lo and behold, my eyes were slightly dilated. The next few minutes were full of the usual, wow it's worked, and, so I am still alive. Wait a sec, let's check my pulse, kind of feelings. The tingling feeling of anxiety and excitement. The random giggling, which could be either the drug kicking in or the feeling of self-satisfaction that it's actually beginning to work, and so on. I immediately went into my room and turned on some music, pretty good. Not so much a connection to or enhancement of the music, but the music definitely sounded louder, and when I closed my eyes I was lost in a sea of thoughts, occasionally coming back to reality and the music. For some reason I decided to wander downstairs and eat something. I grabbed a slice of watermelon and went outside on the patio. I don't know how long I'd been upstairs, but the sun was starting to set, so it must have been a while. The stains and marks on the red and yellow floor tiles started to become more vivid and alive. I started to see witches on broomsticks, insects and other things. Let me mention that I was not hallucinating, in my opinion. My mind was just off on some weird imaginary journey, and I think the dilation of my pupils might have had something to do with it. I laid back and stared at the sky for a while. Always a good thing on psychedelics. The color of the sky was a more vivid, vibrant blue, and the clouds were bright and white and fluffy. No wonderful colorful geometric patterns though, as with LSA's big cousin LSD. After a while of this I decided to watch the sunset. The colors were beautiful, and as I looked at the sun I could almost feel the light go into me, through me. I stood there for a while and took it all in. The mental and physical stimulation was something like that of other stimulants, hallucinogens, but not as intense or as mind-altering. The feelings of exhilaration to the point of dizziness were pretty cool. The euphoria was less than MDMA but more than marijuana. There was a definite mood lift, nothing too extreme, but it was there. A while later I decided to see if taste was enhanced, so a trip to the fridge was in order. I drank 2 particularly huge glasses of orange juice. I was drinking a lot of liquid since I came up. I was also pissing constantly too. I ate a few little things too. But everything tasted artificial, somehow. Pretty disgusting now I remember it. I also ate some chilies and couldn't feel much of a burn. So tastes, as with a lot of other chemicals, was most definitely not improved. About 30 minutes after this I played on some video games. They seemed boring, and my attention span wandered constantly and I couldn't get into the game at all. I couldn't even see the TV properly because my eyes were so fucked, dilated, stuff seemed too bright etc. After a good 3 or so hours I started to come down. I felt tired, clumsy, and my mind was a little numb, kind of like the day after a good dose of MDMA. But this in itself wasn't particularly unenjoyable, and all part of the psychedelic experience. After all, if I didn't want to come down, I wouldn't have gone up in the first place. I've tried HBWR seeds several more times since then. I never felt as good as I did the first time, and the feelings weren't as intense either. Once with 9 seeds I felt almost drunk, and euphoric, with a kind of brain-dead feeling all the way through about 6 hours. This wasn't exactly bad, though. Another time I tried 9 seeds, I was really fucked, ill, tired, couldn't sleep etc. Which just shows the unpredictability of these seeds. Proceed with caution. My conclusion with HBWR is that you can never be too sure, as with all natural psychoactives, of the amount of active compounds in the plant. Therefore it makes for an unpredictable experience at the best of times. But all in all I'd say I learned a lot from these little plants, and it's yet another chemical notch on the bedpost to be proud of. My advice to people would be, if you want to trip, do LSD or something, but if you want to have a good time and generally enhance the situation, then these seeds are for you. Not too intense, easily manageable and legal. But for how long with this persecution of psychoactives with the so-called war on drugs?